They say nothing truly lives in Antarctica, but that's not true. Something moves out there. Something watches. For decades, scientists have come and gone from Station Polaris, a remote research facility buried under miles of snow and silence. Officially, it's a meteorological post. Unofficially, it's a place with a body count that in 1987, a storm cut the base off for 3 weeks. In 1999, the crew found footprints leading into a sealed room. And in 2013, the last year before the station was shut down, a rescue team discovered a diary that should have never been read. These are their stories. 3 real accounts from people who survived and from those who didn't. If you think you've seen isolation, cold, or fear, you haven't been to Polaris. Story 1. The voice on the radio. I joined Station Polaris in the winter of 1987 as a communications officer. Fresh out of college, I thought I was prepared for isolation, but nothing could prepare me for the Antarctic night. The sun hadn't risen for weeks, and the wind outside sounded like the earth itself was screaming. The base was buried under layers of ice, miles from the nearest outpost. 10 of us were stationed there: scientists, engineers, and a handful of support staff. The generator hummed constantly, a mechanical heartbeat against the silence, while the walls creaked under the immense pressure of snow and ice. First, life was routine. Check transmissions, record meteorological data, maintain equipment. The monotony was crushing, but predictable. And yet, from the very beginning, there was a sense that something in the shadows was watching us. I brushed it off as paranoia until the first odd occurrence. Our scientist and 2 other colleagues. It's probably interference, I said, but even as I spoke, the voice became clearer, whispering our names. At first, it was subtle, just my name. Then, others' names. "Did you hear that?" whispered one of the engineers, his voice trembling. "Uh, I think so," I admitted, my stomach twisting into knots. We tried tracing the signal, but every time we attempted, the voice stopped. Static filled the radio, then silence. And yet, the coordinates never changed. Over the next hours, small things began to unsettle us. A chair slightly moved. A cup tipped over. Lights flickered in sync with the radio static. Dr. Hughes joked at first, "It's the Antarctic playing tricks on our minds." But even he stopped laughing after a few nights. The radio became a nightly terror. Every time I tried to sleep, I imagined the voice calling my name through the walls. My colleagues complained of insomnia, strange dreams, and shadows flickering at the edge of vision. The line between reality and hallucination blurred. 2 days later, Dr. Hughes went missing. He insisted on checking the antenna tower during a blizzard. We tried to stop him, but he was determined. Hours later, we found him lying in the snow, headset on, frozen solid. His eyes were open, glazed over, staring at nothing. I dared to listen to the radio after that. Beneath the static, faint whispers emerged. "Tell them I'm not dead." It wasn't Hughes. I didn't know who it was. The others refused to come near the comms room after that. I spent long hours alone, staring at the static, trying to convince myself it was a hallucination. Night after night, the voice returned. Sometimes it spoke in fragments, warnings, coordinates, names. Once, I swear it imitated my own voice, asking me to come outside. I didn't. No one did that. We attempted to repair the antenna system to locate the source, but every tool failed. Electronic equipment misbehaved, voltages spiked, screens flickered, and the compass readings went haywire. Isolation magnified our fear. The storm lasted 3 full weeks, cutting us off completely. By the time a supply team arrived, we were all on edge, haunted by voices that may have only existed in our minds. Or perhaps in the snow surrounding us. I left Polaris when the rotation ended, but I never forgot. On quiet nights, when the wind blows just right, I can almost hear it again, a whisper through static, calling my name, waiting for me to respond. Asterisk, the official reports claim it was equipment malfunction. No one mentions the radio or the voices. I understand why. If anyone knew the truth, they wouldn't be alive to tell it. I sometimes wonder if Dr. Hughes really died in the snow, or if something took him, using the storm as a shield. And me? I survived, but I left a part of myself in that comms room, where the hum of the generator is forever drowned out by static. And that voice, tell them I'm not dead. Even now, years later, I hear it occasionally, faintly, through old equipment, a reminder that Station Polaris never forgets, and that some things buried in ice should never be awakened. Story 2. The Man in the Hallway. Asterisk, I arrived at Station Polaris in the winter of 1999 as a mechanic. The station had expanded since the late 80s, with new labs, generators, and quarters, but the isolation remained the same, suffocating, relentless. The base was embedded deep under the glacier, almost invisible to satellites, surrounded by endless snow and ice. Among the crew was Anders, the new recruit. He was quiet, distant, almost like he didn't belong in the living world. He spent hours staring out the windows at the white nothingness, murmuring to himself, or so I thought. No one complained at first. The isolation affects everyone differently. I shrugged it off, focused on my duties, repairing generators, checking water supplies, and keeping the base functional. But soon, I realized Anders was different. Something about him was off. The air around him felt colder, heavier. Asterisk, one night, a generator outside the station failed. The storm was brutal, the wind howling like a living creature. Anders volunteered to go fix it. He was insistent, almost eager. Are you sure? I asked. Don't worry, he said, staring out into the storm. It's fine. I'll be back. Hours passed. Minutes felt like days. The storm raged on. Finally, we had to accept the truth. Anders was gone. No footprints, no signs of struggle. The blizzard had erased him completely. 3 nights later, I woke to heavy footsteps in the corridor outside my quarters. Slow, deliberate, echoing against the metal walls. I thought it was a hallucination, a trick of the storm rattling the station. But the sound continued, marching down the hallway, stopping just outside my door. I grabbed a flashlight. The hall was empty. Nothing. But I could still hear the footsteps fading into the distance. The crew tried to rationalize it. Maybe it was a shift member, maybe exhaustion playing tricks. But the footsteps kept coming every night, always at the same time. Always Anders. Asterisk, determined to capture proof. I set up infrared cameras along the hallways. What I saw chilled me to the bone. Anders, or something that looked like him, walked past the cameras. His skin was blue, frozen in places, his eyes glassy and empty. But the strangest part? The cameras recorded nothing except static, yet the motion sensors triggered alarms that I confronted the rest of the crew. "You have to see this," I said, showing them the footage. Some laughed nervously, some refused to look. But fear had already taken root in all of us. Night after night, the same thing repeated. Shadows at the edge of vision, whispers in empty rooms, the faint sound of boots crunching on frozen floors. We stopped sleeping. Paranoia became a constant companion. Weeks passed. When the supply plane finally arrived, the rescue team discovered Anders. But not how we expected. He had been found 2 miles from the base, frozen solid in the snow. The headphones in his ears still played faint whispers, incomprehensible murmurs that seemed to carry his fear that we didn't touch him. We didn't speak of it, but I still remember the words, fragments of a voice, barely audible. "Don't let me in again." Even leaving the base didn't end it. In my dreams, the hallways are endless. I hear the dragging boots, the soft echo of someone walking behind me, just out of sight. And I know the storm never truly ends at Polaris. Asterisk, the official report called Anders' disappearance a tragic accident. The storm, exposure, nothing more. But the crew knows better. Everyone who was stationed there remembers the footsteps, the cold spots, the feeling of being watched. That I left Polaris physically unharmed, but mentally broken. The hallucinations, the shadows, the sound of boots in empty hallways, they followed me home. I can still hear Anders, or whatever he became, pacing the corridors, waiting, reminding me that some things in the Antarctic cold never die. They just linger. "Don't let me in again." And every time I hear footsteps outside my own door, I swear it's him, or her, or it, coming back to finish what the storm started. Story 3. The Experiment. Asterisk, I arrived at Station Polaris in 2013 as a temporary engineer. My job was simple: repair the power relay in the lower labs. I wasn't prepared for what I found. The station was nearly abandoned. Only a skeleton crew remained: Dr. Mallory, a few scientists, and a handful of assistants. They worked long hours in secrecy, whispering about a special experiment. The walls hummed with energy. The lights flickered, and there was an undercurrent of tension, palpable, suffocating. I in the lower labs. Behind a locked steel door was a chamber. It pulsed with a faint blue glow and a low, rhythmic hum. The air felt thick, heavy, as though it resisted your movements. The scientists said it was a magnetic resonance study, but I could feel it. Something in that chamber was alive. That I tried to avoid it at first, focused on my repairs. But then I started noticing things that didn't make sense. Shadows flickering where no one stood, subtle movements in the corner of my vision, strange vibrations under my feet. Asterisk, one night, alarms blared. I ran down to the lab, heart hammering. The chamber door was ajar, lights flickering wildly. Shadows moved inside, but there was no one there. The hum grew louder, almost like breathing. I called Dr. Mallory. No answer. The other scientists were gone, their rooms empty. My instincts screamed at me to leave, but curiosity and fear rooted me to the floor. The logs on the terminal revealed irregular readings: magnetic flux spikes, temperature drops, unexplained energy surges. The hum seemed to respond to my presence, growing louder when I approached, quieter when I stepped back that I tried to tell myself it was a malfunction, a glitch, exhaustion. But then I heard whispers, not words, just syllables, unintelligible, urgent. I wasn't alone. Something was inside the chamber. Something aware that I spent the next few days documenting everything. The readings were impossible, the shadows unexplainable. When I mentioned it to Dr. Mallory, he only shook his head. You don't understand. This is bigger than science. We opened a door that wasn't meant to be opened. Asterisk the night, everything went wrong. The chamber's hum reached a deafening pitch. Lights flashed violently, alarms screamed. I ran down to find Dr. Mallory standing in front of the chamber, face pale, eyes wide, trembling. It's awake, he whispered. It's watching us. Before I could react, the lights went out. Total darkness. I felt the air change, colder, heavier. Footsteps echoed around me. Slow, dragging, deliberate. Not human, not mechanical. Something moved inside the shadows, something vast, intelligent, patient. I hid behind a console, trying to calm my racing heart. I could hear whispers, low and insistent, almost mimicking voices of colleagues. My mind screamed to flee, but the station's corridors twisted unnaturally in the dark. When the generator flickered back on, Dr. Mallory was gone. The lab was empty except for his recorder and a notebook. On it, scrawled in a trembling hand, "It's awake." We opened something that looks back. I tried to leave, but the chamber pulsed, drawing me closer. I could feel the energy, almost like gravity, pulling at my body. For hours, I resisted, hiding, praying for the rescue team. Every step outside the lab felt like I was being watched, assessed, hunted. Asterisk when the rescue team finally arrived a week later, I was the only survivor. I was found sitting in front of the chamber, mumbling, "Turn it off," repeatedly, unaware of time or surroundings. The station was sealed, and all logs, data, and equipment were buried under ice. Even now, I can't forget. The blue glow, the hum that seemed alive, the shadows that moved with purpose. Something in that chamber wasn't just energy, it was aware, patient, waiting. Station Polaris was decommissioned, coordinates erased, labs sealed. But I know the truth. Some things in Antarctica are not meant to be disturbed. And whatever I saw, whatever I survived, it's still there, waiting, watching. It's awake. It's always awake. Asterisk Station Polaris was officially decommissioned in 2014. Every trace of it was buried under new snow, the radio tower dismantled, the lab sealed, the coordinates erased from public records. But people who've flown over the area say sometimes their equipment picks up faint radio interference, voices calling through the static, repeating numbers, repeating names, and when you listen closely, you'll hear it whispering yours too. If you enjoyed these stories, don't forget to like the video, leave a comment about which story chilled you most, and subscribe for more true scary stories from places you'll never dare to go. Because some stations were never meant to be found.